You ready, ma'am?
Yes. A one-way trip to Mars takes 6 months, and we thought that was all we needed because we weren't going back, and we were going to make history. There are many questions to how we survived for a year and a half on the red planet, but I cannot tell you how, only the journey, and then maybe you can tell me. I was selected to be an astronaut to first set foot on Mars in 2016. The training was intensive and took about 10 years before launch. We thought we were ready. Approximately 4 years before launch, a rover was sent out to find a suitable location for habitat based on water and soil, atmospheric levels, and plenty of solar power. 2 years after the rover sent out a signal to send equipment, our living quarters, supplies, and life support units landed on Mars in preparation for our arrival. Each of these pieces of technology were ultimately what would keep us alive by providing water and breathable oxygen in the living units. On May 26, 2026, we launched on the SS Raven. After 10 years of waiting, of dreaming of the extraterrestrial land under my boots, we were finally on our way. I remember feeling so small. The universe was so powerful and merciless to a speck of dust such as myself. However, in 6 months, I was going to take a little bit of the universe and make it my own. In space, the human body is exposed to microgravity. This is where the further we are from the Earth's gravitational field, we experience less of the gravity until it is hardly felt. We were always warned about the effects of microgravity during our 6-month journey to Mars. There was the bone and muscle loss, illnesses, and general weakness. In order to keep ourselves healthy, we took a treadmill on board with us and tried to run at least 30 minutes a day to keep us strong. However, there was a greater threat to us during our space travel: radiation. Space radiation comes from the sun and stars and could ionize the atoms of the human body and damage the cells, causing cancer and damaging the DNA. The Earth does not experience the effect of radiation because of the magnetosphere and atmosphere surrounding the Earth works much like a bubble to keep dangerous particles out. In space, we are exposed to at least 40 times more radiation. Inside the SS Raven, radiation is reduced by the materials built into the space station. A hydrogen-containing material was primarily used in locations where the crew spent the most time. Hydrogen blocked the particles better because the protons and neutrons of the radiation particles were about the same size. This is what I thrived on: the complexities of living, of surviving in space. However, the psychological effects were felt by us all. Everyone was in a healthy mental state, of course. Sometimes I would just feel the suffocation of my crewmates all too well. Food was plentiful on the 6-month journey. There was an assortment of vacuum-packed food. Dehydrating the food made it easier to pack and less perishable. We simply added water to rehydrate the food for consumption. We had emergency stored food in the living units on Mars. We were planning on eating as much grim food as we could. When we reached Mars orbit, we transferred to a Mars descent vehicle that took us to the living units. The equipment we were to use to survive on Mars included machines to chemically break down the Mars atmosphere to breathable oxygen, solar panels, drills and processors to get water out of the soil. We also had hydrogen tanks to combine with the oxygen we would collect to form water for extra sustainability. To grow our own food, we used a technique that evolved since 2014, the veggie plant growth system. Carbon dioxide was provided to the plants from our breathing, water from the soil was given to the plants, and we used our feces to fertilize the plants. We knew that plants could grow out of orbit and through the effects of space, but we didn't know how the plants would grow on Mars. In about 30 days, we knew the plants were a success. I checked the machine's operations and made sure we didn't go into a backup generator overnight. It was a simple task, but one that kept us alive. There is very little oxygen and 95% carbon dioxide. Unfortunately, the atmosphere on Mars did not provide enough protection against the cosmic radiation of space. Plasma shields would have been nice, but were highly unrealistic, so our living units were covered in Mars soil to block radiation. This seemed to work well, but we were exposed to high radiation on a day-to-day basis. And then everything seemed to go wrong overnight. Our drill broke for finding water in the soil. We still had our hydrogen tanks combining with oxygen and stored the water away in tanks. The problem was that the hydrogen wasn't going to last forever, and distributing limited water to both the plants and the crew meant we were short of water. And then one day, it was too much. One of the crew members fell ill due to too much radiation over the course of the year and 6 months. The proper alignment to Earth had been due around then. That same day, we got ready to board the MAV.
What happened after that?
The MAV has never been used on getting back to Earth because no one had ever been to Mars to test it out. They used technology that the Mars descending vehicle had to break through the Mars atmosphere. We got into the space exploration vehicle and changed into new spacesuits so that we weren't carrying contaminants back to Earth. The MAV was terrifying. When we actually started the ascent, it was fast and felt unpredictable. The orbiting vessel was located high above Mars, and it took us nearly 45 hours to get there once in orbit. Once the vessel was reached, we started the 6 months back to Earth. Our crew member died 2 months in. He grew so sick from the radiation, the surgeon was sure his cells were dying. I couldn't help but feel responsible. I was too prideful. I should have gotten us out of there at the first sign of trouble. Maybe we never should have gone. By the time we reached Earth, the life had gone out of me. The girl I knew who glowed 2 years ago at the launch pad was gone. Now, 3 years later, and I have gone through intense physical therapy to be able to walk and gain muscle mass. Unfortunately, my bones are really weak and could only be helped through surgery. And here I am, sharing my story for the first time. I know it goes against everything I believed in, but maybe mankind was not meant to colonize another planet. What is the obsession with controlling what is not in our control? Sure, we can build all sorts of fancy equipment and technology to help us survive on Mars, but the reality is that we are at the mercy of nature. We failed because we were meant to. Mars would have ultimately killed us all because we are not the ones who get to decide. No matter if we have all the science and logic and analysis and chemistry, the universe will fail to obey.